Welcome to this business planning overview that I'm presenting on behalf of ESS BIZTOOLS. I hope you're having a wonderful day. The business planning routine. I know that a lot of accountants have not formally undertaken business plan preparation, especially for business plans that the client is going to be involved in research and development, possibly on the innovation journey, looking to get themselves into a position where they can raise some capital as an early stage innovation company. Section 708 of the Corporations Act, capital raising and crowdsource funding, equity raising. Three great ways that SME companies can now raise capital, issue shares, obtain funding for their businesses without having to repay it and without having to pay interest. It's a great opportunity. But those documents do require a fair bit of meat in them to make them acceptable to potential investors. And there could be business plans that are being prepared to try to attract government funding, like the Business Improvement Grant, where grants from around $50,000 up to $250,000 on a 50-50 basis can be obtained by an SME that's still involved in research and development, trying to get a clear concept of what their plan is. But as much as $5 million that can be used to actually create something, create a finished product. And to obtain that sort of funding from the federal government, your client will need a very well prepared and thought out business plan. So it's that scene of business plan that I'm really going to talk to you today about. It's for businesses that are really wanting to scale up and grow and need to really impress the funder, whether that funder is in fact the government, who are going to contribute 50% of the costs of a particular development under the Business Improvement Grant, or a group of potential investors that might be interested in investing in the company. So I think the business planning process needs to be undertaken annually. Now, you might say, oh, we're going to do a business plan that takes the next 3 years. That's fair enough. But then it should be reviewed. It should be reviewed monthly to make sure the action plan's been implemented, that what was supposed to be done by who, by when, has been done. And then to measure how that new action actually worked in practice. And at the end of the 12 months, to have a retreat meeting of the leadership team to basically say, well, are we happy with the plan we've got, or do we need to make modifications? Because we shouldn't be developing business plans that then become a noose around the leadership team's neck, because they should be changed. Well, oh no, we can't change the business plan. It should be a livable document. But by the same token, it shouldn't be thrown in the bottom of a filing cabinet, not to be looked at for another 3 years. It needs to be a living document. So that's why I've got in the slides here and in our material, annually is the ideal time. And your role is, as I see it, is to facilitate the business planning process, not to just write it. For about 12 years, my consulting business had a contract with Oz Industry to be involved with the commercializing emerging technology grant program commonly called COMET. And basically we had to find people who had developed new knowledge, new intellectual property, new products or services, and they were needing to raise capital to be able to get their business underway. Now, this was started in 1999. I got involved in 2001 and was there to 2012 as I developed the ESS BIZTOOLS. I did these consultancy services. And at times I found the business plans had just been prepared by someone, a business planning consultant. Not many were actually prepared by accountants, I noticed. But when I quizzed the director, the founder, the innovator, and asked him about the business plan document that I'd been handed a copy of, and I questioned a few things about it, he said, well, I don't know where all that come from. I had nothing to do with that. I said, well, who prepared it? He said, oh, the consultant just come in and said, oh, it's his job to prepare it. Now, I think that was very wrong. In fact, I rejected that plan and a couple of others and told the consultant that he wasn't getting paid for that by the government, that he had to redo it with the leadership team, which was the director and two of his assistants, and sit down with them and get their comments. Because I think the role of the writer of the business plan is to get input from the leadership team. And you do that by having a series of workshops. And over the years, I've found that probably the best way to do it is a 3-hour workshop with a break every hour, because the people we're working with are not used to sitting at desks all day. And they're very used to picking up their mobiles all the time and answering phone calls. And they get a bit touchy if they're sitting down and around for more than about 3 hours. So I think it's far better to do it in 2 or 3 or maybe 4 3-hour sessions with them, working with them, getting their feedback. Your role would be to take the notes and obviously makes comments and suggestions. But remember, it is their business. And a very important point is they are the team that's responsible for the implementation, not you. Although by the time it's being implemented, you may have become the chief financial officer, or your firm may be offering a virtual CFO service to that client. But nevertheless, it's the leadership team that's saying all these things. You're documenting them, taking them back to them, having them read the brief, the template, the final draft, and telling you whether they're happy with it. And also that they, in effect, sign off on the action plan, because the action plan is going to have a lot of their names on it as to who's going to do what by when. So they're signing on. I agree that I can do this. So my next comment on the slides, the leadership team must be involved. I refuse to undertake a business planning assignment unless the leadership team is going to sit down, the phones are going to be turned off, and we're going to work our way through it, because otherwise it will not be a satisfactory document. So set up a series of meetings with the leadership team. Don't rush it. Don't tell them it's all going to be done in the next week. It can be delayed a little bit. Let them try and work around their schedules. Maybe they pick the times. But I wouldn't be suggesting you agree to do it at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon. I think you might have some problems with that. But work your way through it. If you've got a leadership team that's scattered all over the state or the country and they're all going to come together for this process, you may then have to sit down and do it in 1 or 2 days. And that's quite okay. I'd be going to a remote location if that's the case. Say to a client where you've got a fund in that you've got 6 people or 10 people, whatever it is, and we're going to a remote location. We're going to have dinner. We're going to have lunches, of course, and breakfast. We're going to go for a run. You're going to bring them together as a team, and we're going to get through this agenda so that you get their input. But you've got to make sure that their brains are working on the business plan. So you want them to buy into the various strategies. So as they come up with an idea, you're trying. It's still a democracy, but you really got to try to see that the significant majority are in favour of a particular action. Otherwise, it's probably doomed. It won't work. So prepare the draft of the business plan and submit it back to the leadership team for review, and make sure they go through it. So you would go through clause by clause by clause. I would bring it up on a screen using your computer. Bring it up so they can read it. Have it on paper, but also on the screen. I think it's best to have a number of different ways that people can take these things in. Some people don't like sitting there reading material all the time in paper. So have it in the paper where they can write on it, but also have it that there's a screen that you're beaming it up onto the screen. So they can be looking up, stretching their neck, but they're still getting the message. That's what they're agreeing to in that document. So the action plan, I've mentioned a couple of times, I think it's the most important thing in the document, because it won't get done unless the action plan is actioned. And I think it should be in 3-month intervals. This is what's got to get done in this 3 months and that 3 months and so on. And then at each monthly leadership team meeting, and you say, what? Well, yes, there should be a monthly leadership team meeting. And if there's not one in this business you're working with, I'd be putting it into the business plan, bringing it up, getting the talk, so that there is a monthly leadership team meeting. And a key item on the agenda will be business plan implementation. What was supposed to happen in the 3 months that we're currently in? Some things already been done. That's great. Is everyone happy about that? Okay, there's still 6 items that we've only got 1 month to go. Have enough resources been allocated? What's the problem? What's the holdup? They're the sort of questions. Because preparing business plans is not a cheap exercise for any business. And therefore, it needs to be an actionable document. That's why I've used the word a couple of times, livable. It's got to be alive. And in lots of respects, you're going to be its protector to make sure that the leadership team is revisiting it. And it's these sort of subtle matters, putting it on the agenda, making sure there is a monthly leadership team meeting and making sure it's on the agenda. And hopefully you'll be able to attend that monthly leadership team meeting and make sure the business plan is getting the attention that it deserves. So what is your brief? Let's go back to the very beginning. What is your brief? In some instances, the client may have been invited you to accept responsibility for the overall business plan preparation. Now, some of these areas that I've listed there could be outside your field of expertise. There probably are a number of them outside my expertise, and I've done hundreds of business plans. So when there's a major marketing exercise, I'd be saying to your client, well, there's a considerable work of marketing here. You're wanting to launch a new product, and you're also wanting to launch it into overseas countries. So there's an export strategy involved here, which could get some funding from the Export Market Development Grant if the business's turnover is under $20 million. They might be looking at some research and development activities. Where are they on that? Who's responsible for that? It could be an innovative product strategy that's half finished, but we're now going through the real commercial side where it costs a lot of money and there needs to be finesse about decisions being made. So in some of those cases, you could well be saying to your client, I want you to get other people who can do this, but I want to supply the brief to them so that we know all the documents are going to fit together. When I was handling that Comet grant process as the consultant on behalf of the government, we were all private enterprise. There were only 12 of us in Australia, and we had our areas. And I come across on 2 occasions where when I read the business plan, I read it, okay, and then I picked up what was called the budgets and cash flow forecasts and looked at that. And there was no connection, no comparison whatsoever. They might have had whatever the widgets were called, basically the same name. They had the right company name on them. But other than that, it was a completely different exercise. So I rang the guy that had done the budgets. And I said, when did you prepare the budgets? Did you have the business plan? Oh, yeah, they gave me that. I said, well, I'm having great difficulty understanding why the business plan is not using targets that are outlined in the budgets are not using targets that are outlined in the business plan. He said, oh, no, they were all wrong. I said, what do you mean they were wrong? He said, I don't agree with them. I think they can do a lot better than that. I said, hang on. We are taking that business plan to a group of investors. That's this government program's whole basis. We're going to try under Section 708 to raise up to $2 million for this company. That's the business plan. That an investor will be given. The CEO of the company is going to stand up in front of maybe an audience of 20 to 30 people, business angels and other investors, and make a presentation on his business plan or her business plan. And when they start getting into it and they call in their accountants to do some review and they say, well, where's the budgets? And they look at the budgets and they say, hang on, this is two different documents, two different concepts. The business plan needs to be prepared first, and then the financial interpretation of the business plan is the budgets and cash flow forecasts, which today we are calling predictive accounting. So that's why I put a lot of importance on the briefs, and I'm going to show you some of those briefs a little bit later when we go to the website. So the separate consultants get their own brief. They then know what their role is. What are they preparing this report for? More importantly, what's it going to be used for? I think it's only courtesy to say to the marketing consultant that the marketing report that you've been entrusted to produce is going to be incorporated within the business plan. And we are going to use that business plan to try to raise this company $1.5 million from arm's length investors. The marketing consultant might say. Because there's a degree of seriousness then. You'd want them to be serious. They know they could be open to, at the very least, ridicule as to how they prepare their document if they get things wrong, or they possibly could on the receiving end of legal action by someone. So it's common courtesy to tell them that they clearly know what the document's going to be used for. I also like telling them when you need it by, because I always told them, this is when I need it. You've got 3.5 months. That's when we want it. If you can't do that, you won't be getting paid. And make sure that there's a conversation facility built in. Now, at times you'll find that, especially when you're dealing with professional business consultants, there's a bit of ill feeling between some of them. So you've got to make sure that you're working with someone that you can work with. And you don't want someone being a bit of a smart aleck in some of the things they're going to put into the documents. All that's going to do is upset your client and undoubtedly get you upset. So that's the brief. Your own documentation. Within ESS BIZTOOLS, we've got a wide range of forms that you're going to see when we go onto the website. I've listed some of them here because these will help you to prepare your documents. There's a procedure control form. It's like the control sheet. And we have a procedure control form for the 36, 37 product packages we have in ESS BIZTOOLS. They're all different because every product package is different. We have strategic management consultancy notes, which go through some of the issues that I've just raised with you. We have a business valuation workshop template that you can have a look at, because at the end of this process also, there's probably going to be requirements for a business valuation. Because if your clients already got a company and they've been trading for a couple of years and they're on a very significant research and development project that they envisage could create a whole new product line for them, there's going to be a need for the valuation to be prepared, because we're going out and trying to get $1.5 million contributed. You're not going to give those new investors 90% of the company, are you? So you need to have a valuation prepared so that you got the pre-investment valuation and then the post-investment valuation to be worked out. And quotation discussions with the client. If you've got 2 or 3 external people doing parts of it, like the marketing, like the business validation, if it's a new R&D project, where's it likely to end up? What's this product likely to be worth? Is it possible to sell it? Or the guys doing the export marketing. You need to make sure that the client's factored all that in. You've got the quotes. I wouldn't be taking on that you're responsible for the payment to those people. I'd be saying the client's responsible for payment to them, but with your authority. So you say, I want to review the work they've done. And if we've agreed to pay them a milestone payment of 25% at a certain stage and so on, that you read the document and indicate to your client whether you're happy with it or not. There's acceptance questionnaires that you can use, work program, and some notes on think tank meetings, because think tank meetings are really what these workshops with the leadership team are all about. And we have agendas for think tank meetings, as well as a business planning questionnaire. And we've broken it up into a number of areas there. You can see we've got one we call all industries. So we've tried to design it to apply for anyone. But if you're working on food, retail, manufacturing, trades, professional firms, retailers other, in other words, other than food, new technology, businesses, hotel, motels, tourism, private schools, and wholesalers, you'll find that there's some agendas there for the think tank meeting and some business planning questionnaires that you could use. And obviously you can modify that. I've got all these checklists in the system, and invariably when I'm working with a client, I find that they're slightly different, and I end up editing some of these in any case. And you're going to have some interview forms to use with the team members, the shareholders, the customers, the other key stakeholders in this business. And then you're going to have the preparation of the final business document. The business plan should have an index identifying what the key item is and what the page number. I'm going to take you through a sample of the key items shortly. It's an actual business plan document that I prepared a few years ago for a construction company. Various addendums could be included, and you'll see in that document there's about a dozen addendums. And then the predictive accounting reports, which I've already said is the financial interpretation of the business plan. So an example of a business plan for a construction company was something like this. We had the executive summary. We had a statement of their current financial position. The vision for the company was very important. We worked with the leadership team over 3 separate meetings to really get them to agree on what the vision was. There was a bit of debate about that. And we had a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which also took a bit of getting through, I must admit. We had the history of the business. This business had been going for more than 50 years. We summarised who the leadership team were. And I interviewed each of the leadership team members. There was 5 of them separately. And they all had their ambitions for the company. And we basically documented that in the document, what their roles were and their professional development program. And that was very important because as part of this process, we identified that some of the leadership team needed more financial, commercial training. One of them needed training even in some of the own industry software, because he'd never been involved in it. So we made sure he got booked into a training session. We also wanted to look at the team. Was there depth in the team? And there was a bit of problems with some of the team members, and they wanted to do something about it. Because this business was one that took on a number of construction projects at any one time, and they wanted to have very good team leaders who could be able to go and work on a project 500, 600 kilometres from home base and do the daily reporting back into their supervisor and pay, get full details of the payments are required, handle the job before someone went down to inspect the final work. The team training and licenses. Now, they were a construction company, so licenses are very important. They keep a record, who can drive which bobcat, who's got licenses for forklifts, who's got licenses for various trucks, to make sure that they had those licensees and that their distribution covered holiday periods and sick leave. And they did have an instance relating to that at one stage where they had no one with the correct licenses working because someone was off very seriously ill. And the other guy had gone to Italy or somewhere for his holiday and a bit of relaxation. And they had no one who had the licenses. They had to go and hire someone in that had the licenses to do the work for them. What are the resources? Who are the clients? How do they service those clients? What services do they provide? And they weren't providing everything they could have. We had a checklist of things that a construction company could supply. We looked at their project management and how they did that, the licensing and accreditation I talked about, what their business operations were. They were undertaking a little bit of research and development, but they realised they could have formalised that a bit better, and they could have had quite a number of research and development projects whereby they would have got some taxation benefits back from the government. They decided that they would undertake that discipline because they had ignored it in the past because they thought it was too much extra work. The marketing activities they do, who are their suppliers and the arrangements they got with those suppliers, and who are their competitors. We did a detailed competitor analysis and tried to understand what some of their competitors were doing. Now, this business was not competing with the top end of town construction companies there in the world on their own. They built casinos and huge hotels. But they had worked out who their competitors were, the group that were around them. So we developed profiles on each of them. The risk management issues, communication, how they communicated, especially when they had people working 500 k's away, how they reported back in every night. What's the succession plan in the business? Very important. The founder had retired. He was on the board, but really not too active in the business at all. But there were other family members. One was running the business, but there were other family members. And there were other people involved in the leadership team. What organisations were they members of? Did they go to meetings? Did they get feedback? Did they get the benefit of their membership? Actually, they found they didn't because they didn't go to any of those, but they then decided they would. Board of directors, board of advice. They didn't have those at the time. And they have since proceeded to appoint a board of advice. Corporate governance. It was a great opportunity to give them an overview on how corporate governance works within a business. We looked at their intellectual property and how they protect it. And they did have some intellectual property. But they developed special ways of doing things. Scaling up, we discussed that, and they basically decided, yes, they were interested in scaling up, but only to a certain sum of money in turnover. So they weren't interested in becoming a 100 million plus turnover company. They had reservations about that. They didn't want to get too big. They wanted to have it so they could still control it. They wanted to have it so that the CEO knew every one of the team members' names, was one of the comments that were made. We looked at their quality assurance. They were quite proud of their quality assurance, the feedback they got from their clients. And a lot of their clients were repeat clients. And that had been how the company had originally started. Because originally this company was my client when I ran an accountancy firm. And I knew that there were some key customers of that client, of that firm, my client, who every time they wanted a new warehouse or shopping centre built, they'd just turn up with the plans and say, there it is. Tell us what it's going to cost and when can you start? And that was a great arrangement for a construction company to have with people who had the ability to fund the development of projects. The expenditure budget, how they're going to finance the business. We looked at raising capital. They decided not to do so at this stage, but they now understand how crowdsourced funding equity raising works. But their turnover was probably going to knock them out of that, would knock them out of that now. Subcontractors, alliances, their advertising, the accounting system they had. We went through that. They wanted some changes made to get more information, to enable them to more easily line up against the industry cost reports that the building industry uses. We then want to look at the projected financial accounts and benchmarking comparison. That's what I just referred to, the budget. And we looked at the key drivers in the predictive accounting reports, their stock holdings, their raw materials. They did have raw materials that they were bringing in, but looked at their debtors ledger and their creditors and make sure they understood that having money in work in progress that hadn't been billed was eating up a lot of their cash flow resources. Extraction of key data in the profit forecast, the taxation estimate, and the projected source and application of funds. What do you think of that as an addendum in a business plan? This ended up about a 40-page document, but it really covered what their vision was. We did it for a 3-year period, and they reviewed each year. And the addendums looked at their quarterly strategic review meetings, which they had not been holding, but they now hold, where they look at what the target was in the business plan and bring up some other issues. The organisation chart, the leadership team monthly business review meeting, that's what they call it. They hadn't been doing that. They were ad hoc. Now they have a set day, 2 to 3 hours, and they go through things. They looked at the competitor SWOT analysis, because that's what we did. Looked at the competitors and did our own SWOT analysis on them. The projected financial accounts and benchmark comparisons, the budget, the key drivers. And there's some of the things that we looked at on the key drivers. Debtors, accounts payable, equipment loan, creditors retentions held, big issue in the building industry. Debtors retention held, debtors suspense, cash flow, all these items. So that they don't get hidden in the financial accounts and don't get hidden in the budgets and cash flow forecasts. They're there as separate items, so they can be evaluated. Extraction of key dates and profit forecasts. How we did the taxation calculations. Source and application of funds. The action plan, very important. Responsibility chart. Okay, so that's the overview of what we're looking at. So I'm now going to go to our website and bring up the ESS BIZTOOLS website, which is now on our screen. You'll notice in ESS BIZTOOLS, those of you who are not familiar with us, we start with the advisory intro, which is primarily a package we developed for bookkeepers and accountants who had previously not been involved in business advisory services. The starter package is people who have done some advisory services in the past, or some of the people who we might have originally said advisory intro will do you, that decided they wanted to go a bit higher up the chain, starter package. So everything that was in the advisory intro gets rolled over into the starter package. And then we go to the advanced package, which is a very comprehensive program. And everything in the previous two's folded in. And then we go to the financial forecasting package, which is the Chief Financial Officer Service Package. It's got everything that I know about Chief Financial Officer, and I was one in a listed public company. And we've tried to embed it all into this document together with a whole range of other things to do with capital raising and scaling up the business. And there's a license that you can use, the Plan Guru software, which is fantastic software for budgets and cash flow forecasts, everything we're talking about. You can use it for 10 clients at any one time. Normally, the license is only to use it for 3 clients, and you pay extra. So that's a package I negotiated with Plan Guru. And you get training in how to use that software package by Paul Barnaby, who's a walking encyclopedia on financial forecasting, predictive accounting, so that your team's well-versed in how to do it. On the left-hand side here, we got the subscribed content. Now, this is the content that's reflected in all these packages. And just so you can see on what you're now seeing is what's in the financial forecasting package. It fills up more than one screen, so I've just got to keep on going up. There's a whole stack of product there. And what we're looking at in this one is the business planning. So I'm going to click on business planning. And here we have, this is on the website. There's a summary of what's included. There is a video there you can watch. We're going to download that content. We have a procedure control form, which is covering a whole range of components. And we have a briefing document. I'm just going to go through these as they appear, because I'm afraid my voice is just about ready to say it's had enough. So this is a briefing document for a marketing assignment. And I've just got to bring it across. So it's now on your screen, the briefing document for market research validation. Who's it been prepared by? Details, name and address. And then we go into it. What's required? Primary to be included. So you would mark these or tick them or remove the ones you don't want to go. What's the activity milestones, if there is any, and they're sure there would be. What do you want the report to do? It's going to be used within a business plan to help raise capital. When do you require it by? What's the completion date? When's the final document required? Can you give details under these quotation headings? If you're going to engage any subcontractors, we need to know who they are, because confidentiality is a very important issue in a lot of this work, as you'd appreciate. And your clients might not like the idea of the marketing consultant, who they might be happy with, but employing a subcontractor who you happen to know is very closely involved with one of your competitors. Or more importantly, the client's competitors. So that's a brief summary of what that document's about. And just trying to make sure everyone is in the right area. So there's various forms here you can see about acceptance of quotation and all that. We don't really need those at this stage. I'm just trying to move through and find you an agenda. So let's have a look at the agenda for a think tank meeting. Okay, so here's the agenda for the think tank planning meeting. And I pulled up the one for trades. It didn't really matter. I just wanted to show you one. Welcome, persons present. What's the purpose of the think tank meeting? There should always be a rallying type of presentation made by the CEO or the chairman or the managing director, whoever's really the boss to the team, as why we're doing this. What's the purpose? We're going to go through a review of the business, and you might have your own details on that because you've already briefed yourself on the business. We're going to look at the financial analysis. Where is the business now? What are they happy with? What are they not happy with? What's the objectives? What resources have they got? What do they need? What's the uncontrollable factors? These days you say interest rates and inflation, wouldn't you? But what else are there? Then some of your clients have got uncontrollable factors affecting. What's their situation on technology? Are they up to date? What are they going to do about AI, for argument's sake? Now, a year ago, we hardly mentioned AI, but now it's flavour of the month, isn't it? What products and services are they offering? What's the industry and market analysis? Where do they see their industry going? What experience have they got? Are they maximising that experience? Have they got someone that's worked with them for 10 years and has only stayed on the same job, but he could be or she could be involved otherwise? What about their customers and clients? Do they have meetings with their customers? Do they get feedback? Is their location suitable? What are their competitors up to? We do one of those competitors analysis. Marketing, advertising, production, suppliers, quotes. How do they go out? Do they look nice? Are they always running late? is the end customer on the phone, pleading with them to get it in. And half the time that might mean they just want to have it so they can show the client, their client, that your client was not interested. You're so late. So getting things in on time is very important. Pricing, packaging, sales, operating the business, exports if it's applicable, and so on. All of these issues. Now, you might be able to take some of them out, but in the main, if you're going to do a comprehensive business plan, I think you need all those. And some of the issues you might not be able to finalise, of course. Might be interesting to get some comments on a board of advice or directors. And in our material, we've got notes that you can hand them out on what a board of advice is, what its role is, what its legal status is, virtually none. But board of directors, of course, is completely different. There is real legal status. Public relations, business outlook in your area, management. 56 items on an agenda that you could work through with your clients. We've got a staff interview form that there is a staff interview form that you should be making sure are being prepared on the basis there's no victimisation, there's no comeback at the employee, because you want them to tell the truth. Are you receiving any ongoing training? If not, in what areas do you consider additional training is required? You can get some interesting feedback on some of these. Are you satisfied with the business's policies and procedures? Again, you can get some interesting comments there. How long have you worked for the business? What do you consider the strengths? What do you think of the weaknesses? What are the opportunities that they're missing out on? Are you aware of any threats? Do you think the staff and resources have been adequately utilised? Are you happy with the feedback you receive? You get 20 or 30 of these come back in, and you put them onto a spreadsheet. It can be an interesting analysis of what the team members think of the business. Have you been appraised on your work performance? Any comments on the strategies that you believe should be introduced to successfully compete with competitors? You'll be amazed what you get out of some of this process and what the client will get. In what areas could customer service be improved? You've got any other comments? Thank you for participating. Now, we notice we didn't ask the name there. I don't think we put it at the front. No, we didn't. We deliberately didn't do that. But over the years, I've noticed most of them come back signed, even though we haven't asked them to sign it. I did that because when I first started doing these detailed business plans, which is when I was company secretary and chief financial officer of a listed public company, I had put names down, and some people got very upset that they thought I was going to go and show various comments to the CEO. I had no intention of doing that because I wanted them to be honest in their feedback. So I used putting any name and provision for names. But over the years, I've noticed most of them have a name on it when they come back, even telephone numbers. Please ring me. Little notes. And that's because I think a lot of people take this process very seriously as they're going through looking at it. We got a shareholder interview form that is interesting when you've got a small number of shareholders. It's not convenient if you've got 100 shareholders, but most small companies won't have that at this stage. No, they won't have unless they're a unlisted public company, because a private company can only have 50 shareholders, can't it? So the shareholder, are they happy with the level of service they receive? Please give your comments. What do they think about the marketing, the customer service? Because if you've got some shareholders who are not involved in the day-to-day activities, they're out in the marketplace, they're playing golf or going to the football or going to the pub on Friday afternoon, and they're hearing people talk. So what's the pub feedback? Is what the company's doing past the pub test? We're asking them to comment on a whole range of things if they're so inclined. What do they think the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? I did an interesting exercise in one company that did have about 8 external shareholders, and they put a fair bit of money in between them. And we got some very good feedback. Most of it they were happy with, but there were a few things they weren't happy with, and they let it be known. Because only one of them was on the board of directors, and that was one of the complaints. They wanted another one appointed to the board, and the company did do that, but the CEO said no one had ever asked him before. So it's interesting. You've asked the question, so people then get involved and want to know what you're doing with it. So I think I missed one here. Let's go back here a little bit that I wanted to bring up. The business planning questionnaires. We've developed about 10 business planning questionnaires. We've got a general one. I'm bringing up the food retail one here. So what we've done is, what we've got here is a whole range of questionnaires for various aspects of a business. There's a lot of them. Review of the business, financial analysis, where's the business now? So they've all got separate papers, which have got their questions. And we'll have a look at a couple of them in a minute. And what we've done on this spreadsheet is made this first column food retail. So basically, food retail is getting everything. They're not getting manufacturing. They're not getting quotes, proposals, orders. That don't normally happen in food retail. So there's some blanks there. Packaging, we probably could have had packaging, distribution, and so on. But if you were doing a assignment for a food retail to prepare a business plan, my suggestion would be that you would utilize the forms which we've got here, and then use them for your exercises of going through this whole process. So to bring that up, it's gone. See if I can get it again. Didn't do it hard enough first time. See, it come up twice on that form. Okay, so this is the business planning review of business form. So there's about 40 of these, as you saw. And it's 5 pages, and we're going to ask them these 10 questions. Who's it been prepared for? Why business operations? Why are you in business? What type of business are you in? What differentiates your business? Are you planning to sell the business? Sometimes people are doing business plans because they're planning to sell. You're planning to sell when? Then we move on. Who's in your market? What share of the market do you have? Who are the competitors? Is there a need for an improvement in competitor service? Performance. What level have you obtained? Do you have to improve cost control, size of the business, annual growth rate, products, productivity? So hopefully you see what we're getting at here. We've supplied you with a whole series of questions, very similar to what I've just shown you, that you can then work through with your clients in these team meetings to get their feedback. Some of the questions you might need to use, or some of the questions you might only use with the CEO or external directors if they've got them. But the whole point is we are trying to make sure that you are using these resources so that you can prepare a unique business plan for this company, because every company is unique. They've all got different situations. They might be part of a general group, and the example I gave you there before on the contents was the construction industry, but within the construction industry, they are all different. The client that you might be working on is different. So we're giving them some respect. We're trying to model what suits them. I hope that's of interest to you, and that you're able to envisage how you could use this type of package in your firm. So I'm now going to just go back onto our screens and go to the next page. So the Black Friday promotion. We've launched BizAid by ESS BizTools because I'm very concerned about where a lot of SMEs are at present. I think SMEs need a lot more assistance. So we've significantly discounted our product packages to hopefully encourage accountants and bookkeepers and business advisors, if you're wanting to be involved in this sort of service, to use the products and immediately go out and start undertaking work with your clients so that you recover your outlay with ESS BizTools. You do services for your clients. And I anticipate that that will improve your client's business overall because they will have a plan for 2025. That's fantastic. You don't have to start it before December. You can if you want it, before 31 December. But you can do it early in the new year and everyone's back from holidays refreshed. Why? They got their new ideas in their head. Let's get them in. So our offer is you can get the business planning process for $150. That's a 50% discount. I can assure you, you wouldn't even get a typist to type all that material that we're showing you for $150. And this special price is available until the 10th of December. If you have any questions on any aspect of the business planning or any other aspect of what ESS BizTools can do for your professional service firm, don't hesitate. Don't be shy. Please send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au, or telephone me 0747241118, and I will get back to you. I mightn't be here to answer the phone when you ring, but I will get back to you. And we can have a complimentary Zoom meeting if you wish. So thank you very much for being with us, watching this presentation. I hope it's given you an overview of my views on what accountants should be doing when it comes to preparation of unique business plans for your clients to help them run better businesses and to survive the challenges that all SMEs are confronting at present. Stay safe. Have a great day. Goodbye.